And this whole thing is, right, pre-existing relationships. I think one of the things that, especially being a VC, really taught me, but you realize too, being a founder, is that it's relationships all the way down. That's like really the only thing that business is made of. That's why people make decisions that seem like, oh, there's some objective reason that Google bought Looker. And it's no, like there's certainly a great relationship there. And that's what the catalyst was, regardless of whether a business would mesh well with another one. If the leadership isn't bought in on both sides, it's not going to happen.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited to talk about our sponsor today, Notion. I use Notion at home for my work, with my partner. I use it to plan trips, household tasks, really everything in my life. For those who aren't familiar, Notion combines everything in one workspace, the power of AI built right inside, not a separate AI tool or browser tab. It's a place where any team, whether you're at work or at home, can write, plan, organize, and rediscover the joy of play. Whether you're a Fortune 500 company, a freelance designer, starting a new startup, a student, juggling classes, clubs, or even just organizing your personal life, Notion is for everyone. I've been obviously using it for many, many years. Love the product, and I couldn't recommend it more. So if you have a chance and you want to support this podcast, please go try Notion for free. Go to notion.com/benlang, notion.com/BENLANG, and start turning your ideas into action. Hey everyone, welcome to the Next Play podcast. I'm Ben. I'm an angel investor, former founder, and most recently spent the past 5 years at Notion. Really excited to be bringing on great folks to talk about their career moves, picking companies to start and join, behind the scenes of their decision making and what they learned over the years. So today, I'm really excited to have Merci Grace. Merci is a repeat founder, angel investor, former venture capital investor, and formerly also head of growth at Slack. She started her career in tech as a game designer and has worked in product roles at SaaS and consumer companies. So thanks for coming.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me.
So you've done a lot of different roles. How do you describe yourself?
I tell people that I've played every position on Team Startup. I've been the coach, I've been the founder, I've been on the sidelines cheering people on, and it's been lots of fun. I just love making stuff, and I love working with people who love making stuff.
I love that. What's your favorite position so far on the team?
I love a head of product role. I'm going to be looking for that after just shutting down my startup. There's nothing like being a founder, but also the pay and the stress and everything, especially in a market like what we're in currently, is unreal. And so like the head of product is a great balance between responsibility for the team, input on strategy, and working very closely with leadership, especially the CEO, but without a lot of the things that really suck about being a founder or a CEO.
Yeah, so we'll dive more into that as we go. I definitely have a lot of questions for you on that, but I want to take a step back and go back to your time at Slack. You spent a few years there as the head of growth. You joined in 2015. Mm-hmm. Slack was on track to make about 30 million in ARR and still, a relatively small company. What got you excited about joining?
I used the product and I just thought it was great. At my first startup, I had actually a distributed team and we used IRC every day. So I already was like, oh, I have been on a team that used this. I really enjoyed it. And then it was just taking off and people loved it. That je ne sais quoi of, I'm not sure why, but I just really like this product that you tend to only see in consumer companies, that like love of product market fit, not just like solving a pain point. And then I had talked to Stuart Butterfield, the CEO and founder, previously about joining when they were building the game Glitch and I was leaving Electronic Arts. And then I just didn't have it in me to do another experience in the games industry. And so I was very grateful to get a second chance to join the team.
Do you remember what onboarding to Slack looked like at that time?
Oh, there was no onboarding. Absolutely not. Yeah, I know. I showed up. Here's your computer. I had a few hours of discussion with Stuart about what my role was going to be. We had played and enjoyed each other's games. And so he really wanted a product person with a game design background to run what at the time we were calling new user experience. And so I got into the Slack experience and then started talking to customers in Zendesk. And then I also asked for some, hey, what data do you have? What does the funnel look like? And I got quizzical glances in a response. There was no front end instrumentation. And so I just started from there, person zero, to work on onboarding, and then it became growth.
It's so interesting that he wanted someone with a gaming background. Why do you think that is?
Games are engaging, and a lot of growth is about shortening the distance between the person joining the product and having a really compelling experience and having opportunities to make that experience social. And when you're designing games, you're both someone who's going to look at data to understand, hey, did someone make it through this level and things like that. But then you're also going to do things like record user interviews and look for the psycho-emotional cues of someone really having a good time. So leaning in, opening their eyes a little bit, smiling, their tone of voice, subtle things that people in games have spent actually decades doing that kind of player testing. That's only recently come into consumer and SaaS tools.
So what was your role defined as when you joined?
I was a new user experience product manager.
And so how did you spend most of your time?
At first, for the first couple of months, talking to customers and then designing a new user experience. I worked with Brandon Velastek and Stuart Butterfield. Brandon was our head of design, and obviously Stuart is the founder. And we iterated back and forth on what the new onboarding experience should be. We did a design sprint with Google Ventures, which ended up making it into their book Sprint. We are chapter 7 on Decide. And then it got to a point that Stuart approved it. And only then did I get engineers and design resources assigned to me.
Cool. So what type of people do you think succeeded working at Slack?
Yeah, it was a unique personality type that I was hiring for. I was the head of product there for about 6 months before Stuart promoted April Underwood to become VP of product. And during that time, hired a large number of the product managers. It's not just enough to be smart, but you had to be a specific type of intelligence, which is someone who has the ability to talk and think at the same time. That's very much how Stuart communicated. Product is this melange of skills, and a lot of it, frankly, is just a personality type. I honestly think I could give a personality test to graduating seniors from college and pick out the people who would make good product managers. There's just something about the delight in taking responsibility for things that's a weird trait shared amongst people. And then the other thing is that people who have good product gut and are willing to make decisions with ambiguous data, which is often the case, even when you have everything instrumented, things are going to be 49, 51, and the willingness to make the product call without data and stand behind that decision.
So it seems like you had a really great run at Slack. Was it hard to leave?
Yeah, it was hard. It was such a different company by the time I left. I think like that heart and soul and everything still there, still hiring really great people. But when I joined, I was about the 50th full-time person. And then when I left, we were approaching 1,000 people in under 3 years. So it was a pretty different culture. Things were, of course, like slowing down. It's all those signs of maturation that you're lucky to get to that stage, but it just wasn't something that I was really excited about doing.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on that. I've experienced similar things. And
yeah, I know. If you're addicted to startups, like you're addicted to startups.
Totally. So do you have any stories that really shaped your time while you were at Slack?
Yeah, one of them is when I was starting to hire product managers and running with alongside his chief of staff, helping run Stuart's schedule and making sure that he was seeing everything. I really got to absorb his specific product taste and the things that he really wanted. Probably the most impactful thing that I absorbed from him and then passed on to the product team was really this decision-making machete around features for work and features for this kind of social use case. So very early on, the founding team of of 8 people, decided that this is a tool for work and for teams accomplishing things like nonprofits and projects when you're in college and in high school and things like that, and not something for people who are planning a Burning Man trip or planning their wedding or running a large open source community that isn't paying us. And so we really were more than happy to see that Discord stepped up and took over that use case. They've been hugely successful with that. But it was a very good tool to say, how is someone going to use that at work? And it helped us avoid doing things like building a blocking feature, for instance, because that's an HR problem. If you're blocking someone at work, if you want to, go to your HR team. That is not blocking them like you're blocking a troll on the internet is not the solution, but that was a very requested feature from people who don't have an ideal working experience.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people building communities in Slack, and always an adventure.
Yeah.
So after Slack, you became a partner at Lightspeed. How did you decide to go from being an operator to working in venture?
I had been invited to apply basically for some partner roles at different firms. And at first I was looking more for a product role, but then realized that my job, I had been looking for the problems in Slack's data. That was really my job, was trying to see around the corner, understand how the trends were going, and make sure that we were just continuing to go up and to the right. And when you're looking for problems in historically good data, it will cook your brain. And so I was looking at data from these companies where I was looking at product roles, and it all looked dangerously poor to me, even though many of those companies are great and they still exist. And then I got these pings from venture capital investors. You're a former founder and probably future founder, let's be honest. When you have raised money from VCs, it feels like anyone could do that job. And they hold a lot of prestige and power in Silicon Valley. And it's so hard to get one of those roles too. You really do have to be invited to apply. Almost no one gets to have one of those roles, and certainly not at, a tier 1 firm like Lightspeed, where there's incredible founders at that firm to learn from. And once I got invited to apply, I ran a whole process. And it took about 9 months from deciding to go for it to starting my first day at Lightspeed.
I would love to hear what those 9 months were like. What was that process? What was that process?
Very social interview process. So I helped structure and kick it off for myself by writing 2 investing theses. So I wrote a consumer investing thesis and SaaS investing thesis because I wanted the option to do either investing. And so saying, hey, here are the trends. Here's what it looks like today. Based on these trends, here's what I think the next few years are going to produce and the things that I'm very interested in looking for. There are so many companies and so many startups raising at all times that you really have to have an opinion and a point of view for what you think is going to be successful. And then you basically try to go find founders who agree with you. And these are very tight-knit, very small teams. And so most of the interview process was very social conversations, dinners, coffees, hanging out for an hour with someone. And then near the end of the process, you start to get invited to partner meetings and to weigh in on some of the founders who are coming in front of the team to give you a sense of how they make decisions.
Sounds like a very different process than joining a startup.
It's a firm, and you're a partner in a firm. It's much more like what I imagine being a lawyer is like, where you have the skills that they want, but unless you're a good fit with how they want to behave and what they're looking for, then you won't get that role.
And can you double click on what being invited to apply means? Like, is this a public job posting or is this totally under the wraps?
Yeah, it's under the wraps. Someone DMs you on Twitter or sends you an email or texts you. And this whole thing is pre-existing relationships. I think one of the things that, especially being a VC, really taught me, but you realize too, being a founder, is that it's relationships all the way down. And that's really the only thing that business is made of. That's why people make decisions that seem like, oh, there's some objective reason that Google bought Looker. And it's no, there's certainly a great relationship there. And that's what the catalyst was, regardless of whether a business would mesh well with another one. If the leadership isn't bought in on both sides, it's not going to happen. And I had raised venture capital very soon in my career. I was a founder right out of college. And so I'd known a lot of VCs from that time. I must have pitched what felt like everyone in Silicon Valley when I was 23, I think.
Yeah. So were you surprised at all after your first few months at Lightspeed?
I think, I had had a while to get used to actually how different each of those firms are internally. And each of the firms are really looking for a specific kind of type of founder that they could really believe in, that they think will be successful, and that's a fit sort of in their portfolio. And so the first few months at Lightspeed were absorbing, sitting in the partner meetings and really absorbing, oh, okay, here's how to get an investment approved by the partnership. Here are the deal sizes and constructs that people like. And really, here's the type of founder that's going to do enough in front of the partner meeting to get the group's okay to write the check.
And had you done any angel investing before joining the firm?
I did a little bit of angel investing. Yeah. Working at Slack, we had the opportunity to sell some stock in the secondary market. And I did that in order to pay off my student loans, first and foremost. And then I used some of that money to angel invest in other companies.
Do you think that helped you at all as a VC, having that experience beforehand?
It's interesting because it's very different. Being an angel investor is you often get it because your background is a really good fit. You're an operator who can be uniquely helpful to the team. And then winning as a venture capital investor, there's only one winner. There's only one firm that gets to lead. So angel investing is highly collaborative. My friend Jana Messerschmidt, who also worked at Lightspeed, she and I will text about companies as angel investors, but you wouldn't ever tell a VC that you're competing against. Oh, hey, this great founder is raising a Series A. You guys should go for it too. Absolutely not. You would want to do it as secretly and as quickly as possible. And that intensely competitive funding environment is exhilarating for someone who's competitive. But you also see you can pick good companies all you want, but the only thing that matters is one, winning, and two, ownership in the company. So it's not really a win if you were able to put in a small amount of money and get a basis point in a company, and you need 10%, 20% in those first couple of rounds to really make an impact for the fund.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. Sales is hard, man. Dang. But I learned so much, and I felt like I got an MBA in the 2.5, 3 years that I worked at Lightspeed, and I got paid a lot of money to get that MBA. I had never felt like I could afford to go to graduate school as someone making startup wages in Silicon Valley and not coming from any kind of money or anything. And it was really wonderful to get that opportunity to learn from and get a lot of board experience and things like that. It was great. I would do it again.
Are there one or two deals that you worked on that you're proud of?
Yeah, I led the seed round for Magic Spoon, the protein cereal
I've eaten
company. Excellent. Thank you for buying our $9 a box cereal. Those founders are just fantastic. And so they had been in college together and been friends there. And then before they started Magic Spoon, they had started an insect protein bar company, thinking like this is a much less destructive to the environment to raise cockroaches and eat them. And they were able to sell that business off to, I think, a cricket farm in Texas, I want to say. And then they were basically right back at it. They were still fantastic friends. They were even co-CEOs. And when you find high agency, high intelligence people who have a great partnership like that and can work together, it just is obvious that they're going to break through walls as a team. And that's a big thing to look for.
Love that. So after Lightspeed, I think you ended up as a founder again. What prompted you to leave venture and go back to founding a company?
Really missed making things. There just isn't anything like having an idea, doing research, like getting data around it, building prototypes, talking to users, and being in that really intensely creative and intellectual process. It does feel totally insane to do that after being a VC, because as a VC, you have this perch onto the performance of thousands of companies. You get to know the hard data and the challenges and wins of a large number of companies. And most of them go out of business and most of them fail to become big winners. And so, I guess I know I'm a crazy person because I thought it would be fun and a good idea to go start a company.
It sounds like there just was something missing from working in venture that you just weren't able to get. Did it feel that way to you?
Yeah, one of the best things that you can do as a VC is no harm. Don't get in their way. Help when you can, but really you've done the job in giving them funding. And then often being a board member, when a company starts to take a lot of time as a board member, it is not a good sign. The people who are going to be successful could have raised money from anyone. They don't need you. And so if something is running, just let them run.
So you've done a couple roles. You've been a founder, a VC, an operator. If someone comes and asks you what should they do, like how do you answer them? How do you think about evaluating all these options?
Yeah, I think the only answer could really come from within someone else. It's what do you want to learn? What's important to you? How do you like spending your time? If you're not a highly social person, you might have a rough time as a VC because it is thousands of first dates over and over again. That's most of it is email and having meetings. And oftentimes having meetings that 10 minutes into the meeting, you're like, okay, I'm definitely not going to invest in this. And now I have to wait out the next 50 minutes or 40 minutes. And you just try to have it be hopefully a productive and at least not devastating experience for the founder, if that's the case. And then if you want to be a founder because you're obsessed with an idea or you just love working on stuff and building, that's really great. But similar to product managers, I try to discourage people who just want to feel like they're in charge from being founders or from being product managers, because it really is the case that you have a lot of responsibility toward your team and toward your investors, but it's not like a cool, powerful feeling. It's not like the sort of veneration that you see, in the like 30 under 30 and all this. Yeah, the reality of being a founder is a huge amount of anxiety, a lot of stress, but massive autonomy and agency. And so if you're someone who hates taking direction, who can't sit still in class, you're probably going to be a good founder.
Or if you don't go to class, if you skip it.
Yeah, also, yeah. People who are model employees, I don't think are great founders. So actually in doing reference calls as a venture capital investor, say I'm calling about an engineer who's leaving Google and she's been there for 4 years. A good reference call for me includes an uncomfortable moment where someone has said, she was great, but she was always running off and doing her own thing. She has a problem with authority. She can be difficult to manage. Like, I want that person. I think that is something that prepares you for being a good founder, is that you have that unmanageable personality type. I don't want to hear, oh, she was awesome. All of the execs loved her. She was always doing what we told her to, et cetera. Like, if you've been a totally unproblematic employee, I don't think you're going to be a great founder.
So your most recent company, I know you recently shut it down. Can you talk a little about your story there and your journey?
Sure. Yeah. I think the sort of over story of my company and a lot of people who got started in 2021 and 2022 is just terrible timing. So the funding environment and the stock market wobbled and then crashed in May the war in Ukraine started, there were a number of meta destabilizing events happened that had a real impact on the funding market, valuations, ease of raise, and then also things like the consumer psychology of anyone who's adopting software. You're not excited to be better at your job if you're afraid of losing it. You're just going to hunker down and do what you're told, and you're going to be working from a place of survival and not thriving. And it was wild to watch that happen in my user interviews. There's enthusiasm, joy. People are very leaned in ahead of mid 2022. And then fear, anxiety, reluctance to try new things started to come up. And we just kept hoping the macroeconomic situation would resolve itself. And if we gave it enough time, it would recorrect and people would be more interested. And I don't know, that started to happen. And then the sort of LLM breakthrough happened. And now all bets are off. And so I was just looking at some funding numbers, and SaaS was the least invested in category in April, with only 7 companies getting funded in April in SaaS. And the things that are doing well are biotechnology, healthcare, and artificial intelligence. So it's a very different environment, and we'll see hugely different companies get funded and succeed because of that.
Do you think there's still opportunity for SaaS companies?
Yeah, it'll come back. Everything's cyclical. During my first startup, the 2008 recession came out, and my co-founder and I had gotten the wire in for our Series A days ahead of when Sequoia pushed out their infamous slide deck, RIP good times. And so, yeah, we're like, thank God that the money hit, because people were absolutely pulling back on things and reneging on term sheets and things like that. So we were just like very happy to have like barely missed that.
Totally. And so now that you shut down this company, how have you been spending your time?
Yeah, so I'm doing things that I normally didn't have time for. I'm painting, and I'm doing a lot of camping. I got a rooftop tent put on my car. I'm just trying to be outside a lot. And unfortunately, I'm coming up with startup ideas. Someone stop me then.
Are you giving yourself like a certain amount of time to take a break and focus on painting and camping, or you're just going with the flow?
I'm trying to take 6 weeks off this summer. I'm going to go up to a little surf town in British Columbia. I'm a huge fan of Canada and Canadians in general after my both Slack and Panobi experience, where a lot of my colleagues were Canadian, got to spend a lot of time in BC. Yeah, trying to do that before hunkering down then the summer and getting into a new role.
Awesome. Is there anything you learned from this most recent founding experience?
Yeah, man, a lot. That's what I do at night too.
Reflect.
Rock back and forth. Like, how did this happen? I had posted a sort of Twitter thread about some of what I saw in terms of user psychology and this huge shift in the market. That was a lot of it, apart from just the timing. I think we had built something that people wanted and got value from in a certain market, really the ZIRP, zero interest rate market. And what was like a problem that was a nice to have problem versus, oh my God, this is an existential threat to my business kind of a problem really changed. So in the ZIRP era, when everyone is growing and everyone has money to grow, the problems that a head of growth have are like rad problems. We're lucky to have those problems. And then in today's market, it's a lot, people are trying to do a lot with very few resources. And the sort of overarching message from boards and from VCs and leadership is around efficiency. Make a dollar last longer than you made it last in 2022 or in 2021.
So what areas would you be looking at joining?
Yeah, I'm looking at AI-powered companies. We built a few LLM-powered features at Panobi. And it's so funny because it's very easy to read press releases and look at vaporware landing pages and things like that and say, wow, what is this technology capable of? But then when you get down into it, it's about token sizes. It's about service prompts and constructing actually almost this kind of like if then that chain of things in order for the user experience to be something as simple as typing in a handful of words and then coming out with something that's good on the other side. And so it will be very interesting to see as LLMs progress too, and people sort of ship real things, but then like how much of it is a toy, which it is now, which is great. Slack started off as a toy. Honestly, I think Notion started off as a toy too. It's just a fantastic product experience that you enjoy using. And it's not something that like solves a major pain problem that nothing else does. There was Yammer and IRC before Slack. There were an untold number of sort of documents companies before Notion. But then when you just hit it exactly right and create something that people just like playing with, then you're really off to the races. And all of the MBAs in the world and their analysis about market size or whatever, not going to stand in your way.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's a bunch of companies that have started off feeling like toys and become something very significant. It's cool to see that.
Yeah. And I think the main thing I'm looking for is something that's post product market fit because it's more fun to have those options. And especially as a product person, I don't believe in founders hiring any product people before product market fit. It's their responsibility to get to product market fit and then bring in people like me to help you organize your team and grow different functions and ship great things quickly. But it's the sort of spiritual responsibility of the founders is finding product market fit.
Yeah, 100%. So I think last question, I hear a lot of people who are tempted to go from being operators to investors. What do you tell people when they're thinking about that?
It's a finance sales job. They will pitch you on, you can work really closely with the founders. It's not if you want to win. A founder who really needs your help is not going to be successful. I would love for anyone to like counter that, but I don't think that VCs leaning in is ever a good sign for the company. And so what it really is that you're picking targets and founders and areas to go after. And then you need to win in a cutthroat sales process. And then a lot of the things that you need to know and understand are really finance. You have a sales role in a finance partnership. And it feels cool. It's great. You get like a lot of Twitter followers and people love content about VCs. It's so funny. But yeah, unless you are really excited about a sales role in a finance, or you shouldn't be a VC because that's like ultimately what it is, especially, I guess, in any market, I would say, because when it was up, super competitive to get deals. And now that the market is down, I'm sure tortuously difficult to convince your partnership to do a deal.
I appreciate you being honest about what being an investor really is. It's really helpful hearing from someone who's had experience in so many different roles.
Yeah, I keep coming back to product. I love working with engineers and designers and building stuff and creating teams out of individuals.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and share all of your experiences. And I think this will be really helpful for a lot of people out there.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, thanks a bunch. Hey everyone, I'm super excited to talk about our sponsor today, Notion. I use Notion at home for my work, with my partner. I use it to plan trips, household tasks, really everything in my life. For those who aren't familiar, Notion combines everything in one workspace, the power of AI built right inside, not a separate AI tool or browser tab. A place where any team, whether you're at work or at home, can write, plan, organize, and rediscover the joy of play. Whether you're a Fortune 500 company, a freelance designer, starting a new startup, a student, juggling classes, clubs, or even just organizing your personal life, Notion is for everyone. I've been obviously using it for many, many years. Love the product, and I couldn't recommend it more. So if you have a chance and you want to support this podcast, please go try Notion for free. Go to notion.com/benlang, notion.com/BENLANG, and start turning your ideas into action.